Dave was aware that his daughter's mum was up to no good, well before she said to him, "If you want to start playing fucked up, then I really will." They were hardly words of a poor terrified abused mum, as she was claiming to the family court to be. The threat was in regards to any future relationship between Dave and his daughter Lauren, who was just 10 months old at the time. Now, because of the total failing of the family law system, father and daughter would be all but totally wiped from each other's lives for the best part of the following 5 years. Dave wasn't going to just sit around, he'd go his own route to get his little girl back.
Get away.
This man has got a very powerful humanitarian cause. As I understand it, he cares about his daughter, from which he's been separated, and all power to him.
A stunt by a lone protester dressed as Spider-Man has forced police to close Tower Bridge. Julie Gatenby is there for us now. Julie, I had to take a huge detour to avoid Tower Bridge. What is this man protesting about?
Well, as you can see, Spider-Man behind me, otherwise known as David Chick, is campaigning for rights, better rights for fathers. He says he's been denied access to his 3-year-old daughter despite a court order allowing him to see her. He's gone up as Spider-Man because that's his daughter's favourite comic book character.
6 AM day 1, an entry in the police incident log by Chief Superintendent Randall stated, "Low-key approach, minimise attention he gets, knows what he is doing, not in crisis. He is in control of his actions, not a direct threat to another, including public." But the total opposite would follow. Another entry in the incident log stated, negotiators refusing to attend the scene on the basis that there was no threat to Chick or the public. It was acknowledged that he was not mentally ill and had no history of causing injury to individuals or damage to property during the course of his protests. Despite this information being considered initially, the MPS decided to effect a pattern of road closures designed purely to put pressure on Chick to bring his legitimate political protest to an early close. Another log entry by Superintendent Tom Henley, Clymer does not like road closures, so should be used as a bargaining tool against him and his cause. Later adding, "My decision, leave the roads closed." Another stated Tower Bridge could be reopened if required, but pointed out its closure could help in negotiations. Police evidence and documents would later reveal a police and government conspiracy to discredit Dave's demonstration by blocking off the roads around Tower Bridge at an estimated cost of £50 million. The police commander's log had a note stating that Chick had not wanted the roads closed, and though he was no threat and mentally stable, if they blocked the roads, it would force him down.
We all know full well, if the man up there looked like he was a member of Al-Qaeda, I mean, the place would have been swarmed or he'd been taken out by the SS or something. And we cannot really allow, because once one person gets away with this, every other idiot with a grudge will think if they can just get up and inconvenience a couple of million Londoners, they'll be able to get away with it.
Welcome to BBC London News. When David Chick scaled a 150-foot crane near Tower Bridge dressed in a full Spider-Man outfit on Friday, his aim was to help estranged dads get better access to their children. He hasn't achieved that goal as yet, but he has managed to bring part of London to a near standstill. Tower Bridge remains closed until he comes down, and nearby roads have been cordoned off. Our reporter Paul Curran is live at the site now. Paul, are there any signs of him coming down?
No signs of him coming down as yet. As you said, he went up there on Friday, and at the time he said he'd stay up for a week, and at the moment he's looking as good as his word. Now, you may be wondering why close off the roads below. The police are worried that because he's on a very high crane and there's very high winds, he could fall off, and he could fall onto you or me or a car passing by, and he could also throw something off. As a result of that, they've closed off the nearby roads, and that's causing a lot of disruption. At midday, 2 specialist police climbers worked their way to the top of the crane, but they weren't trying to bring David Chick down. With the wind getting stronger, they just wanted to talk to him about the increased danger he was putting himself and others in. As a result of the protest, the police have shut all nearby roads. Traffic is being forced to take long diversions, but the Met says it has no option.
We don't want to do this. We apologise for any inconvenience caused to the business community and the residents of London. As soon as we can possibly open that, we will do so. This is out of our hands. It's in the hands of the demonstrator. He knows what he's doing. He knows what his actions are. He knows as soon as he safely comes down from that crane, we will open up the cordons.
The police say it's too dangerous to force him down, despite calls for firmer action.
He should be brought down one way or another. This is ridiculous. It's taken hours and hours to do an hour's job.
Get him down, drag him out.
How could one man single-handedly bring London to a standstill? That's the question the Met Police are facing tonight as David Chick, aka Spiderman, prepares to spend his fourth night up a 150-foot crane by Tower Bridge. He's protesting at what he calls the plight of fathers who are denied access to their children and has assured police by mobile phone that he won't endanger anyone. But is this the exclusion zone set up by the Met? Tower Bridge remains closed. The approach to it has also been cut off. And East Smithfield from Dock Street, a major arterial road out of the city, is shut to traffic too. And this is the result, as seen from our jam cams, some of the worst congestion the centre of London has seen all year. Here's the view of the spookily empty Tower Bridge approach, surrounded there by police cordons. You can just make those out in the dark. Well, our reporter Paul Curran has been at the scene all day. Let's go live there now. Paul.
Well, normally, Emily, this junction would be absolutely bumper to bumper as well with traffic. As you can see tonight, like most of Tower Bridge, it isn't. And if David Chick keeps his word, the whole area will stay like this until the weekend. I spoke to David Chick this afternoon before his mobile phone packed up. He says he's given the police assurances that he won't go to the end of the gantry. He's blaming the police for the disruption. And some people have sympathy for his protest.
He's got something to say, so it's one way of saying it, isn't it?
So how long is the protest going to last? David Chick says he has the provisions and, more importantly, the determination to stay up there for 9 days. That would take him to the end of next weekend, assuming the police don't change their tactics. But not everyone's complaining. Fans of Tower Bridge will be able to enjoy a rare view of it without traffic for some time to come.
I guess the other man who's not complaining is David Chick himself. You talked to him on his mobile phone, Paul. What did he tell you then?
Well, he also said he was surprised that the police didn't trust him. Now, earlier in the summer, in June, he had a similar protest. That only lasted a day, and he said then the police described him as decent and considerate. But today they're saying, well, they don't trust him, they don't know what he's going to do. That's only increased the determination for him, because he says that when he came down last time, he only came down because he was given certain assurances and promises that he says weren't kept.
But as the demonstration by a protester in a Spider-Man suit entered a second working week, only the tourists were amused. Queuing in their cars, diverted round a huge police cordon, Londoners were this morning wondering how one man up a crane could close down one of the capital's busiest junctions.
Well, they should have had this done about 2 days ago when it first happened. Now in a backlog now.
Well, it's absolutely ridiculous.
We don't want it. We don't want it.
And what do you think they should do? Get him down, get him off.
I think this is an appropriate and proportionate policing operation at this current time. The dangers, as we pointed out in relation to the wind moving and the crane moving, we need to have these cordons in here to ensure the safety of all Londoners in relation to that. And as soon as this person comes down, it will be done. The roads will be open as soon as it's safe to do so. To go up there, as you can see at the moment with those wind conditions, it's extremely dangerous to do so.
But the man in the suit, David Chick, has done this before, climbing another crane on the site in June. He endured summer heat then, and his supporters say he's ready for whatever autumn brings. But this is an uncomfortable time for the police as well, under attack not only from the public fed up with the disruption, but also from the protester, who apparently has been throwing what's described as human waste at officers. Despite this, they say the softly approach is best, and are prepared to wait until David Chick comes down of his own accord.
Yeah! Go forward! Don't jump! Stay there! Show me the way to go to call! I'm depressed and I want to see me kid! Stop fucking me! That's the top! Dad!
200 feet up, and this Spider-Man's adamant he's not coming down. Well, not for a while at least. He'll be spared a trip to the tower that he's been overlooking for the past 5 days, but police say he will be arrested for his one-man protest that's brought chaos to this part of London. David Chick scaled the crane on Friday, causing a security alert that's closed off surrounding streets and one of London's most famous landmarks, Tower Bridge. Since then, he's been playing a cat and mouse game with police who've been attempting to talk him down. As the Skycopter arrived here, 2 police negotiators were climbing back down after another unsuccessful attempt to end the demonstration. Each time they try, he climbs out to the edge of the crane, putting himself and the police in danger. The 36-year-old is protesting lack of access to his 4-year-old daughter. His friends say he's not suicidal, but is determined to stand up for a father's rights, even if that means misery for motorists. Hovering over Tower Bridge, the disruption is plain to see. Looking down on the bridge, nothing is moving, and many surrounding roads have also been blocked off. It's been like this for days. According to local residents, this is no friendly neighbourhood Spider-Man. Emergency services have been stationed here since Friday. The Metropolitan Police have denied suggestions they've overreacted by sealing off a wide area. The safety of the protester and the general public is, they say, their first priority. But it's more unwelcome disruption for local residents who only recently had to endure 44 days of upheaval during David Blaine's starvation stunt. And unless the police or the cold and rain can persuade David Chick to end his protest, he plans to cling to the crane for another 5 days.
What Spider-Man, Flybrain, is actually doing at the moment really is beyond the pale. He's got a legitimate right to protest, he's got a legitimate right to get his message across, but he hasn't got the right to totally disrupt London the way that he has done.
I'm afraid the bottom line is, though, he's not only putting his own life at risk, he's putting the lives of police officers down below, the lives of motorists and so on. He's just gone a bit too far.
Well, we can't see what else he could do to try and work with the police. I mean, we've been with the police tonight, and many of them privately admit those roads should be opened. Mr. Chick's offered to have the arm of the crane moved round by the crane driver, so it's actually off the adjacent road. There's absolutely no reason why those roads on Tower Bridge and the surrounding area should be closed. And we are bemused and we're astonished that the police have taken the actions that they have.
An entry in the police incident log dated 4th November 2003. Chick not in crisis, not suicidal, angry, not mentally ill. An offender of the cause, not wanting to hurt anyone. Possibility of weakening the prosecution case by opening the roads. Wants a coffee and states he'll come down tomorrow at 15:12 hours because his daughter's date of birth is 15:12. If he wants coffee, he can come down. We know he has no food left.
Early evening on day 5 of the protest, the 4th of November, was when I first mentioned to Ed, my mate with the other walkie-talkie, that my protest was nearing its end as I was running low on cigarettes and food. Within an hour of me telling him this, which the police heard as they were listening in to all their conversations, everything down below changed. Cordons blocking off the roads were being removed, and Tower Bridge and all other roads were suddenly being reopened.
As rumours grew that David Chick from Burgess Hill was about to end his protest, the police presence grew. The onlookers gathered, and the negotiators went up. But with the warm sun shining down on him, Mr. Chick decided to eke out his moment of glory for another hour at least, and the police descended the 175-foot crane above Tower Bridge alone. Yet, as dusk fell, Mr. Chick followed them down the ladder and was taken away for questioning. His supporters said they were happy with the outcome.
Day 6 of the protest, the 5th of November. At 3 p.m, just 10 minutes before I was due to descend, 2 police officers arrived at the top of the crane with 4 AA Baptists for me. The reason for the delivery was that the police had something they desperately wanted me to hear about, and from someone I trusted. Ed was now able to tell me about a story in the Sun that the police had shown him. He was told if he didn't relay the story to me, he'd be arrested for conspiring in the public nuisance charge that I was to be arrested on. He told me the Sun had a big piece in it about me, but it wasn't good. They'd fucked me. It was about a conviction I got in 1987 for having consensual sex in public with another adult, and the headlines, Spider-Man is a pervert. Anger was my first emotion, but soon it turned to feeling gutted and then panic, with all different thoughts flying around my head. Then it was discussed that there were no depths these sick bastards weren't prepared to stoop to in their attempts to break me. A brief thought about jumping and ending everything came over me before I took a deep breath and pulled myself back together. Regarding the police purchasing and providing me with the batteries for my walkie-talkie for the last few minutes of my protest, There'd been the complete opposite of any favours from them to this point, and this certainly wasn't one either. They wouldn't even allow me a coffee the previous evening, but now they've gone shopping to get some batteries and delivered them to me atop the crane. And the delivery is made just 10 minutes before the time that I told them I'd be descending. No to a coffee that I asked for and wanted, but a very late purchase and delivery of batteries that I didn't ask for, want or need, to make sure I'd hear of the story.
Extraordinary attempts of a desperate man. Spider-Man has eventually climbed down. Paul Cohen was there for his descent. Paul, what happened then? Any first words?
Well, no, he didn't have much of a chance to talk, really, as he came down. The odd shout to his supporters and a wave for the crowds who had lined up on Tower Bridge. All pretty well orchestrated in the end, though. We all knew he was coming down at about 4 o'clock, and true to his word, at 5 to 4 he started the descent, and it took him a few minutes to get down, and then once he was there, he was greeted by police, taken away, put into a van, and he's now being questioned at a nearby police station.
I guess the questions will now go as much to the police themselves, though they've been heavily criticised for the handling of this.
Yeah, throughout this, the police have been questioned about the way that they've set up the whole cordon around the crane. They said at first that this was because it was a potential danger that he might fall off, hurting somebody below, or he could throw something off, which could also hurt people below. But in the end, they suddenly changed their tactics last night. Just at about 8 o'clock last night, they decided that they didn't need the cordon after all, and they took it down.
It could only have been someone with access to the police national computer, i.e. the police who above, who leaked the conviction to Mike Sullivan at the Sun. But that's just a run-of-the-mill thing the police do whenever it suits them. Sullivan running the story that he knew had been leaked by misuse of the PNC won't surprise many, nor would the fact he twisted the story, as he was no doubt requested to, from what it was into the untrue, most damaging and shaming headline piece he could have. What all but confirms the plot on top of the sinister delivery of the batteries is that the story relayed to me this day wasn't officially published in the Sun until the following day, the 6th of November. So it was mocked up in the Sun a day early, especially for me to hear of it whilst I was in a dangerously high place. There's no way that I can prove me jumping was their hope or plan, but on the balance of probability, and with the varying degrees of factual and circumstantial evidence there is, it's highly likely that this was what was being desired by those that organised it all. It was easy to arrange. There was virtually zero chance of it ever getting found out. They had nothing to lose and plenty to gain, as in the prosecution they were destined to lose would be gone. They wouldn't have to put up any more of my protests. They wouldn't have to look up for me for more days, weeks with me looking down on them. And I wouldn't be able to make them all look so dumb and incompetent anymore as I had throughout this protest.
After plenty of legal argument, David Chick was eventually granted bail, but with conditions. The district judge told him he must not climb any tall structures, buildings or otherwise, and that he must not do anything likely to cause public disruption.
Well, no costume for David Chick today as he appeared in court after his 6-day protest up a crane. The so-called Spider-Man of Tower Bridge has been charged with causing a public nuisance, and as the man who was protesting about access rights for fathers was freed on bail, he was banned from climbing any more tall buildings. Here's Paul Cohen.
Asked by journalists for a comment on his protest, he declined.
Which ones I can trust, which ones I can't, because a lot of you are dirty, bad people, yeah?
Apparently a reference to a damaging report in a tabloid newspaper. But David Chick can't complain about the amount of coverage he received during his 6 days up a crane near Tower Bridge, even though his protest about fathers' rights has landed him in a legal web. He's been charged with causing a public nuisance. The prosecutor said his actions were a danger to the public. He's denying the charge and has opted for a trial in front of a judge and jury.
Then there was a big effort to have me remanded for the police's public nuisance crime, where something just as sinister as had been planned for the previous day would have been just as easy to organise. How the CPS gave the green light for me to be charged, with no real evidence to have done so, reeked of more corruption, and why the big effort, plenty of legal argument, to get me remanded for an offence that they'd have known wasn't down to me. And this for a man just peacefully protesting over the secret family law system's failings and abuse to so many, which the state wants no one to know of or hear about. Two pieces of scum who I 100% know were involved in the conspiracy are the Metropolitan Police Commissioner John Stevens, who would have overseen and okayed all the police's tactics throughout the protest, and the Sun's Mike Sullivan.